Today is Thursday, and every Thursday we like to celebrate Math Tuesday.
Oh my goodness. Math Tuesday.
It's Math Tuesday here on Texas Football Today, where we dive into the numbers of Texas high school football, talk a little bit about some of the things that make Texas high school football go, and maybe some things that you haven't had thought about. And so today we're going to start a series of a couple of segments where we're going to talk about the most improved teams in Texas high school football. And, one of the things that we try to focus on around here is trajectories of Texas high school football teams. Because in the end, there's only 12 UIL Texas high school football teams that are going to achieve the ultimate goal, right? And if you measure it only in that way, if you measure it only as pass-fail, then there's only 12 teams that had a successful season, right? And that's just not the case, right? Because that would mean that there's 1,200 teams that had a failure of a season. And that's just plain and simple not the case, especially when you talk about improvement. And you talk with Texas high school football coaches, and yes, the ultimate goal is to win a state championship, but a lot of these coaches are saying, we just want to get better. We want to get this program moving in the right direction. And so what we're going to start doing is taking a look at which programs did the best job of moving the program in the right directions, which teams made the biggest leaps. And so we're going to start with just the basics, okay? Which teams improved in the win column? There's more to it than wins and losses, and certainly I think that we talk all the time about teams that are better than their record indicates or maybe worse than their record indicates. But there are, I think when you take a look at these teams, as a famous man once said, a guy who used to be the coach of the Dallas Cowboys, you are what your record says you are. And so let's start by comparing what you did in 2023 to what you did in 2024. And plain and simple, which teams increase their win total the most from 2023 to 2024. So let's put up that first graphic. Here are the teams that improved their win total the most from 2023 to 2024. And there at the top, the Antelopes of Post. There are the most improved team in Texas high school football as far as win total is concerned. They improved by 11 wins. Okay? Consider that. They went from a 2-8 team in 2023 to a regional final, to a state semifinal. They were in the regional final at 13-0. They were undefeated regional finalists. So a remarkable turnaround there for the Antelopes. Not far behind them, though, the Rough Riders of Saginaw, who put together one of the most remarkable seasons we've seen, the best season in program history. They go from 1-9 to 11-1. I mean, it is hard to overstate what a huge turnaround that is, to go from 1-9, which puts you as one of the very, quite frankly, worst programs in Texas high school football, to 11-1, which puts you among the elite. To go from the cellar to the penthouse like Saginaw did is remarkable. Same thing goes for El Paso El Dorado. El Paso El Dorado, the Aztecs, go from 1-9 to 10-1. To go from 1-9 to a 10-win season is crazy. And I know that 10-1 is not exactly the record they want to finish with, but to improve by 9 wins is insane. The Jaguars of Somerville did the same thing. Go from 2-8 in 2023 to 11-2 this year. In the six-man ranks, the Braves of Three-Way were winless in 2023. A winless team. They go to 9-2 in 2024. Now, Water Valley at the bottom goes from 2-7 to 11-3, and that is worth celebrating. There is a small, teeny little asterisk there. Water Valley, in realignment, moved from 11-man to 6-man. So they are playing a different game. They are playing a different, they moved from 2A to 1A. So that matters a little bit in this one, but make no mistake, to go from 2 wins to 11 wins is a remarkable accomplishment. And so those are the teams that made that leap in 1 year. And just plain and simple, comparing 2023 to 2024 is impressive. And those are the teams that, from a 1 year perspective, the turnaround was the swiftest. But I want to zoom out a little bit. And what I want to do is now take a look at the teams as far as trajectory is concerned are looking good over the last 2 years. Okay? Which teams that if you go back to 2020, 2022, which teams have improved their win total and the trajectory is starting to move forward and that progress is really starting to point up. And so let's take a look at which teams from a 2-year span are making that leap. And you're going to see some different teams here. One of them at the very top, a state champion, Richmond Randall. It's easy to forget that in 2022, in their first varsity season, they went 4-6. Okay? They go from 4-6 to 16-0. The reason that we talk about how rare it is for a young program like Richmond Randall to win a state championship in their third varsity season is because their first varsity season tends to look like that. It tends to look like 4-6.
It's insane.
Okay? Post, by the way, we mentioned them in the previous graphic. They were coming off back-to-back 2-8 seasons. Then they go 13-1. Iowa Colony, another young program, goes from 2-8 in 2022 to 12-2 in 2024. Fort Worth Benbrook was 1-9 back in 2022. They vault all the way to 11-1 in 2024. Junction, the Eagles. What a turnaround it's been for the Eagles. They go from 2-8 in 2022 all the way to 12-2 this past season. And then we mentioned Saginaw. Remember, they went back-to-back 1-9 seasons. This is a Saginaw program that you could put among like the very low, like we did our program rankings, and I want to say their program ranking was in the thousands. Okay, it had 4 digits in it. And then they rattle off an 11-1 season, by far the best season in program history. So these are programs where the trajectory is very clearly pointing up over the last couple seasons. And you see a state champion there in Richmond Randall who is proof that, yeah, that trajectory, that build is working there for Brian Randall and those Lions. And so those are teams that obviously those programs are on the way up and the arrow is very clearly pointing up for them. Now, I want to zoom out one more time, and I want to look at a 3-year span. And here's what I want to do here. Instead of looking at the teams that improved the most, because, look, rosters are going to turn over, right? The roster that you had in 2021 versus the roster that you had in 2024, they're going to be vastly different. Maybe there are some guys who have been 3-year starters, but chances are you've fully turned over the roster, maybe save for 5% at most of your roster. But the mark of in my opinion, a truly impressive program and a program which is very clearly on the rise would be if you are getting better each year over the course of a span. We talked about on Monday the Texas high school football program rankings we put on TexasFootball.com. And Jeff Reardon, the coach at Chapel Hill, texted me and he said, hey, can you go back and look at what our program ranking was back in 2019? Back, I believe, right when he arrived, 2019. They were 888th in the state. They're now 88th in the state. Okay? From 888 to 88. They made that 800 spot leap. That is a program whose trajectory is very clearly on the rise. And so what I want to do in this one for here is I want to look over the last 3 seasons and which teams have increased their win total each of the last 3 seasons. So it could mean just going from 1 win to 2 wins to 3 wins to 4 wins, but just getting better each year. And of the 1,216 UIL Texas high school football teams, there are only 35 that have won more games than the season before in the past, over the last 3 years. And some of them, I think you're going to recognize some of the big names, right? Ganado, a defending state champ. That is a program that has been on the rise. They have been consistently better. They went from 7-6 to 9-4 to 12-3 to 15-1. That's a rise. You look at actually what's going on in Crowley ISD. Both North Crowley and Crowley have been there. We've praised what Ray Gates has done at North Crowley. Remember, back in 2021, they were 7-4. 7-4, 12-1, 14-1, 16-0. But then there's other programs that maybe you haven't paid attention to what they've been doing, right? Look at what's been happening at Sulphur Springs. Okay? Sulphur Springs, back in 2021, they were 0-10. They go 0-10, 7-4. Really nice leap. But then, and if they had stopped there, it would have been an impressive story. But they go 0-10 to 7-4 to 8-3 to 10-3. They are very clearly on the rise. Honeygrove, LaPorte is very impressive. We got a great story on TexasFootball.com. They've been doing that without a home stadium. Alvarado has been on the rise. Bremont, another program. Palestine Westwood. What's going on in Richardson ISD with Richardson High and Pierce? New Diana, Littlefield. There's 35 teams. Aldine Davis, Cy Lakes, Dallas Adamson, Austin Travis. Just 35 teams have been able to increase their win total each of the last 3 seasons. That, to me, is a remarkable achievement. That, to me, shows consistent and sustainable growth within a program. And I think for these programs, if you're one of these programs, you're feeling pretty good about where your program's heading. Because the arrow is very clearly pointing up for these guys. And some of them are, obviously, they've already reached the mountaintop. Ganado, obviously, they're feeling pretty good. North Crowley, feeling pretty good. Stanford, played for a state championship last year. They're feeling pretty good. Others, more work to do, but the arrow is very clearly pointing up for each of these programs. And they would go into the list of, as far as over the last 3 years, programs that have been the most improved programs in Texas across the state. So there it is, a look at some of the most improved programs in Texas high school football over the last year, the last 2 years, and the last 3 years. We'll have this up on TexasFootball.com as well, so make sure you check it out there.